Monday. It's Monday. Watch out. We're still coming. Monday doesn't scare me anymore. Every day's Friday to me. I always feel like I'm starting a weekend. Welcome to 420 Live. I'm Jeff Kravitz, your affable host, to bring you a little distraction to your day, to this madness we have going on. I tried to do the math a little earlier. We're about 13 weeks now coming to you live. I've gone batty. I forgot what I did in a prior life. I forgot what my job was. You know, at a certain point, I'm just not making any cash, and I'm sure I'm not the only one out there. We're all kind of in the same boat right now. We're all watching our spending and taking it easy because we don't know what's going to happen. I don't know when the next event that I'm going to get paid to shoot is. There might be a lot of things I could go shoot for shits and giggles, but you know, let's face it, I have to feed the kids. Oh, speaking of kids, if you caught my Father's Day show on yesterday, my kids hosted, and I have to thank them. They did a fantastic job. It's something else to watch the world's reaction to your children, and it's unique to be able to share them with everybody. And you know, a lot of people follow me on Instagram and all the socials, and they know my kids, and you know, they stalk my kids too. So Zach has a whole fan club. After the show, Julianne says to me, "Well, Zach didn't really talk that much," and I was like, honey, Zach doesn't have to talk much. You just sit there and stare at the camera and let the girls kind of look at him. And it was all good. And I was kind of right, because all of a sudden my Instagram was like, your son is so cute. And I'm like, well, it's great. You know, I just hope smart is what I'm looking for. You know, nice, a good human being. You know, looks are fleeting. You know, at one point in my life, I might have be considered incredibly handsome, and over the years, you know, stuff starts, your chin drops and your hair drops and your belly drops and you're done. You're kind of out the pasture. So this is me out the pasture here in Santa Monica, circling my wagons, getting ready for who knows what. I don't know what. I will say that it was interesting to watch the first, what I would call, rock concert in a stadium, in an arena on Saturday, be a complete flop. You know, our poor president, I don't have any sympathy for the guy, because you reap what you sow. So he, you know, you want to keep hitting that button, and, you know, people are going to fight back. And I find it very interesting that the Twitters and the stands, I had to ask my daughter what a stan was, because I was like, why are K-pop fans called stans? And she's like, Dad, that's after Eminem. His song about Stan was about this crazed fan. So anybody that's a crazed fan is a stan. So I just thought that was like a speech impediment or something. Shouldn't that be fan? And they're like, Stan. So yeah, K-pop stans. Over 1 million tickets were requested. And I saw a tweet from one guy's like, yeah, I went to breakfast with my kid. And he's in England. I went to breakfast with my son this morning. He was 14. And he said, you know, I was telling him about this. He goes, oh, yeah, Dad, I put in for 3 tickets. The kid's 14 in England. No chance he's coming to a Trump rally. So very interesting. Good job there on the social media, kids. We have a lot more left to do to make sure we have a little change there. And I think everybody is working. We all should be working to make sure that we have a new president come November, and we have a new outlook on our society. You know, the stuff I'm seeing on TV, the protests, what's going on in Seattle. I don't know if anybody's clued in there, but in the Chaz zone, there's no police in the zone. It's totally self-policed, and there's free food, and people live there. It's very, very strange. It reminds me of the Occupy Wall Street thing that happened in 2011, which I actually went down to shoot in the great city of New York. And New York is where my guest today resides. Karina Rykman is a musician from the New York City area. I met her 2 years ago. I was putting together a band for a jam. Some of you might know I play guitar, one of my guitars. And I was doing a jam at City Winery, and my friend Dan Canner, I was picking his brain for bass players. He's like, hit up Karina Rykman. And I hit her up. And of course, she had her own show that weekend also. So she was busy, but she was nice enough to lend me a couple of her musician friends, Isaac Sloan and Chris Corsico, who he plays drums in her band. And we had a great jam at City Winery for like 3 hours. We played. It was great. It was after the Phish show on the 30th. I think 2018, and it was a blast. I love playing music. I love music. We're all fans here. Let's bring Karina Rykman in and say hi, Karina.
Oh,
there you are.
Oh, how are you, Jeff? What's happening?
Good. Good to see you.
Likewise. Thanks so much for having me.
So where are you? You looks very bucolic. It does not look like Brooklyn behind you.
No, that's very true. And I've been living actually at the aforementioned Isaac Sloan, the guy who you hired in place of me to play bass at that Crazy City Winery party. He's my best friend and roommate in New York, and I've been at his family's country house in the Hudson Valley for the last 3 months. So I'm up here just, it's definitely not Manhattan. And
no.
It's very bucolic, and I've been running and swimming and hiking and doing all the stuff that my city kid self never really, did a ton of growing up, so it's been a unique time in that way.
You're a country girl.
I'm feeling the country vibes, dude. I'm in. I'm totally in.
Well, it's beautiful. I was on, of course, as I mentioned, I was having you on the show. All my friends start checking you out, and I saw the video you posted of Daft Punk is playing at my house. I guess that's actually Isaac's parents' house, right?
Yes, it is.
And I was watching it, and it's a really funny little video because the whole thing's shot from a drone, and you can't even see you guys for most of the video.
Exactly.
What was the? How did that all come about?
Well, there are a few of us here. We call it the quarantine commune, and we've all been living together for quite some time. There's, Isaac's brother, Isaac's girlfriend, my boyfriend, the parents, like it's full blown. But Isaac's girlfriend, Marlo Shankweiler, she's a very talented guitar player herself and plays in a great band called Melt. You should check out Melt. But she had the idea of getting a drone and like filming our jams, because we'd been jamming a ton. Like when this first all broke out, we decided we were going live on Instagram every night, just, jamming, improvising. And it was amazing to be, in a place where, you could do that at all hours of the night, unlike you can in Brooklyn or Manhattan in your apartment, and with amazing friends who were talented musicians. So we did a lot of that. And then we were like, you know what? We should get a drone. We should film this from above. And then Marlo and I split the drone, and we were the co-parents to the beautiful new piece of machinery.
And I saw on your IGTV, you really haven't been making a lot of IGTVs. It's like a new thing for you, right?
Totally. And I'm getting into it. And in my head, I want to make the drone series. I want to make like Porchella or like, the porch sessions, and just like film ourselves, doing covers and random stuff and whatever. And just kind of,
Well, who's operating the drone?
Johnny.
Oh, Johnny is. Okay, yeah. Johnny Beach. Our good friend Johnny Beach. Oh, good. Well, so how are his skills? Is he learning on the job?
Yeah, he was quite literally thrust into it. Poor guy. Like literally, we had to make that Quarantine Comes Alive video of Daft Punk playing at my house, and we did one original and blah blah blah. And like we just threw him to the wolves. We were like, "Come on, John, you got it, right?" Like he'd never practiced before. That was like first take. Just had to get in.
That was the first take when you shot it?
Well, yeah, what happened is when we first got it, we got too overzealous about it. And we were like, oh shit, this is the coolest thing ever. And then we ended up just doing stupid things with it in the first 6 hours and flew it into a tree. It totally broke. And then we had to like duct tape the wing back on, basically. So we basically fucked it up in the very, very beginning. And we gave Johnny a busted drone to try and film us on. And like that take that you saw for the LCD,
right?
It was the first take and the last, because like all of a sudden it starts like just uncontrollably spinning, and it was fucked. Like we just had to use that.
Oh no!
That's how that all went down.
So is the drone history now?
No, the drone. It was under warranty because we and I are intelligent drone parents, and we got the insurance, and we sent it in. They sent us a brand new drone.
Wow, that's very good. Yeah, there is a very big learning curve on those things.
They're ridiculous. It's insane.
Yeah, because you don't really realize the power and how fast they go, or how to be subtle about it. I've had one and I'm afraid to even fly it.
It's intense. It's an intense thing, and I mean, I've grown to love it, and I'm so into it. And now that we have the new one, we definitely are like, picking and choosing our battles per se. We're not like, yo, follow me. in the Jeep, like with the drone, and then like,
No, not at that level yet.
no.
Well, you start. I didn't realize you started as a photographer and a videographer.
Well, I did a lot of that in high school. And I just, I made commercials. I worked with this guy who, like, I made a New York Sports Club commercial in high school. I made a commercial for like a dentistry practice in Lexington, Kentucky. Like, I did a lot of random stuff. And then I had a ton of concert photography that I I started shooting Phish because I like had this funny access to Phish, and I was like, oh man, if I had an SLR, I could probably take some amazing photos. And I did. And I did a lot of that, and it was super fun, and got hired to do various things. It's like how I made money in high school.
And then you were doing interviews too? You did an interview show?
Did that. Yeah, definitely. There was a guitar effect pedal company called Tone Concepts that saw that I had done a bunch of interviews, and there's this one video that I did in 11th grade for my junior workshop project, where I interviewed Trey and Alex Skolnick from Testament. And, I kind of just put it together, and it was called, Is There a Formula for Popular Success in Music? And that was really cool. And then these people were like, whoa, I like your interview format, blah, blah, blah. Like, could you do that for us? And then I totally started, they sent me out to where you live. I went to LA to interview Dweezil Zappa, and I interviewed Nels Klein and Jim Campolongo, just like the people that played their effects and whatnot. And I had an awesome series. It was killer, and they're all on YouTube. And I hope one day to kind of string them all together and make something cohesive, because I kind of asked, questions that were a thread in a lot of ways. So it's cool.
That's excellent. And so you interviewed Trey when you were a youngster.
Yes. It's on YouTube, and now it has, thousands and thousands of views, but it was literally just my junior workshop project, if you will. So every kid had to do something in a field, come up with a question and then do something. And I was like, I want to make a documentary. And I just interviewed the musicians that I knew, in varying levels of success.
Yeah, that's definitely a varying level. And that's a good pull for a high school student.
Totally. It was really amazing. I've watched it recently, actually, just because, quarantine. And it holds up, and it's really amazing. And he really took the time to get deep on every question. And I'm super grateful. Obviously.
Well, he's a great interview. You really don't got to say too much to him to get him going.
He took off. He totally took off.
Yeah, all you got to say is hi.
Yeah, exactly.
Hi, Trey. How you doing?
He juggles oranges in the video too, which is great.
And I saw you doing that.
I do that too. I got it from him.
Did you? You learned how to juggle from Trey?
No. We do that. Marco and I, we do a lot of fruit juggling, of the hospitality setup backstage. We like to do our tandem juggling routine. It's good. It's a good thing.
It keeps you in sync. Well, talk about how you came to music. When did you start playing music? What was bass your first instrument?
No, guitar was my first instrument. Well, I played piano a little bit in 5th grade, but kind of gave it up. It was just I didn't want to take these rigid lessons or do anything that took the joy out of it. So I was like, I'm not into this. I'm not feeling it. So basically didn't play music at all until 8th grade, when a kid in my class, Bobby Aronson, shout out to my friend, he kind of put an acoustic guitar in my lap and taught me how to play Seven Nation Army. And I was shook. I could not believe I could do this. I was just I can literally do this. He's like, yeah. And then I got, completely absorbed into playing constantly. All I did was play, and I had my neighbor's shitty, yard sale acoustic guitar, probably cost him $7 or whatever, that I borrowed. And then for my 13th birthday, my uncle got me my first electric guitar. And the famous story there was, we go and I'm with my parents getting it, and it was a big deal. And they try to sell you a gig bag, right? Just to have a gig bag. And my parents are or my mom was like, gig bag? She's not going to take this out of the house. And then 2 weeks later, I'm in a band, going to rehearsals 3 times a week, playing live, doing everything. And then, so I gigged throughout high school, 8th grade and all that, and never stopped. So it started on guitar, and then shortly thereafter, I picked up bass and kind of played both simultaneously. I was in a couple bands where I played guitar and a couple bands where I played bass, and that sort of thing. So
what was your musical influence at the time? What were you listening to?
I was deep into rock music and even like punk and metal and stuff like that. I mean, I was super into like 70s thick rock grooves. Like I love Mountain and I love fucking Joe Walsh and I love Zeppelin and Cream and Blind Faith and like
The very riffy rock and roll, which is kind of like the first song you learned from the White Stripes, was an incredible riff too.
Totally.
So,
And of course, I loved, you know, and a lot of the stuff that I love to this day, I like, you know, I find that your musical influences when you're young kind of, I don't know, there's something about like coming to like all that music when you're at that formative age and it kind of sticking with you. So like,
well, especially when most girls your age are listening to a little Bieber and a little bit of everything. Did you ever listen? Was that ever your thing, to pop?
I love pop music. I love pop. I was going to say, I love hip hop. I love pop music. I love electronic music. Like I totally ran the gamut in terms of all that. And I mentioned all this big riff rock, but like I loved indie rock. I love Beck, my favorite of all time. I love Nine Inch Nails more than anything. Like, you know, I had definitely like some weird stuff going on. I love LCD Sound System. And of course, Phish came into my life in 9th grade. So after that, it was kind of like before Phish and then after Phish. And that completely dictated everything.
What was your first Phish show?
It was the last show at Jones Beach in 2009 when they came back. So I think that's 6/5/09, something like that. Yeah. So that was huge.
And what was your impression going into it?
I had no idea. I was basically brought as a friend. You know what I mean?
Were you familiar with the music at all?
I had bought on iTunes Chalk Dust Torture Studio and Bouncing Around the Room Studio. That's all I knew. I knew that it was like kind of like a post-Dead thing. And I was familiar with the Dead and liked the Dead, but like in a very like peripheral level, you know? And then I couldn't believe what I saw. It was the craziest thing of all time. And then a week later, I'm 15, right? A week later, I go down to Bonnaroo. And then I see them again because they played that year.
Oh, and so you had your first Bonnaroo too.
Yeah, totally. And that I really cite that as like a moment where I was like, this is not a hobby. This is what I want to be surrounded by forever. I will do whatever it takes. I'll clean the toilets here. Like it didn't matter, whatever it was. Like,
what was your impression of Bonnaroo? What was that like for you? Because you were 15 years old. You went to Bonnaroo.
I was 15 at Bonnaroo, and you know, Isaac, I'm telling you, this place I'm in, and you know, the friendship I have with him and the family, it was quite literally, you know, Isaac is friends with the Anastasios as well, and so basically, Isaac's whole family went down as like friends of the band, and they had a good little, you know, RV set up backstage. Right. It was very chill and all that, and then. Yeah, Trey's younger daughter, Bella, like would hang out with us and like kind of would sleep in our RV. And it was kind of like an extra set of parents. And like, you know, we were just all kids and hanging out. And
so you were backstage. You weren't into general camping. So.
No.
Oh, okay. A little bit different.
It was wildly laid out for me. And I did not know this was all happening so quick, you know, because I went to school with Trey's kids, but it wasn't like I didn't understand what Trey did. You know what I mean?
Well, you don't really understand what your friends' parents do, I think, you know.
I knew he played guitar, but like I didn't know that like everybody knew when to clap during Stash or like when to say Wilson during Wilson. And I was just like, but my friend Isaac was wildly into the music somehow. And so I would go to him and be like, what is happening? He's like, oh, you just wait. Like the end of this song is really going to blow your mind. Like, and I was like, what is going on? And we were, you know, backstage with, you know, Phish and Snoop Dogg like split a backstage. So like there's like Phish's camp and then Snoop's camp, and I'm 15 and I'm like, this is the craziest shit of all time. And the Beastie Boys were the biggest deal to me ever, and I was just like nonstop, like singing Paul Revere, like teaching everybody the words, and then we rolled front row. I was so excited. And
that was the last Beastie Boys performance too.
Exactly. I was super, super stoked, dude. Anyway, it was
well, quite charmed trajectory into the scene there, Karina.
It was. The craziest moment was literally when Bruce was rehearsing with Phish in the trailer. The only other people there were Danny Clinch and then Isaac and his brother Nathan and like Bella Anastasio and maybe Sue Anastasio. Like I don't know. It was like and we were just in there watching them play Proud Mary.
Oh,
And like,
you were in watching the rehearsal.
yeah. And it was the
wow.
and my brain was exploding. I couldn't quite like it was so surreal. Anyway, it was insane. Then Bruce like left and was like, "All right, guys, I'll catch you later. I'm gonna go see a little Nico Case." And I was like, "That's never heard anything cooler than that." You know,
he's a cool guy, Bruce. He
pretty
definitely
fucking
is.
cool.
I mean, that was so cool of him to play with Phish. And we had Danny on the show last week, and he was telling the story about how he got him to stimulate him to go rehearse with the guys and check them out. And it was just such an amazing moment for everybody on the scene. And I'm from New Jersey too. And I grew up with Bruce. I was listening to Bruce since the 70s, way before you were born. And, you know, so for me to see like one of my favorite bands growing up come together with my favorite band now, it was just, you know, I had tears in my eyes. I was crying. It was a beautiful experience. So you were backstage at Bonnaroo. You saw Phish, and then you were like, you were playing bass. You decide on bass at this point yet?
I honestly did not like decide on bass until I got the Marco gig, which was 4 years ago.
Oh, gotcha.
All throughout that, I'm totally just doing both, playing a little bass, a little guitar, a little bass, a little guitar. And
talk about how you got it, how you met Marco. How did you guys meet?
I met Marco through Dave Drywitz, his, you know, former bass player. I know he was recently on the show. I missed it.
He was. And how did you meet Dave? Let's go back even further then.
So I met Dave. There was a after school program, if you will, that I did called Thor, which stands for Tomatoes House of Rock. And it was basically a School of Rock offshoot that was started by this gentleman named Tomato, who was in this band called The Sound of Urchin, and which I ended up playing in from when I was 18 to 21 and touring and all that stuff. But basically it was like this great collective of like kind of like-minded kids around New York City who every Friday or Thursday, like there are different programs on different days, but you'd pick a set list all together and then assign like parts. So it'd be like, okay, like, Dragon Attack by Queen. Okay, Karina's gonna play bass, Isaac's gonna sing it, and then this kid's gonna play drums and blah, blah, blah. And it would just be different for all that stuff. And then we'd put on shows and then perform it. And it was an amazing learning experience all around. So those shows would happen. And there was one time where we had various musical guests come in. And one of them was Gene Ween, or Aaron Freeman, if you will. And basically he came in and picked the set list for the kids. Me being one of the kids, I was like 16, 17. And Dave Drywitz would come by those rehearsals and just like come to hang out. And he was friends with Tomato. He plays bass in, or rather Tomato and Dave play in Dave's, duo, which is called Crescent Moon, where they play Instant Death. So anyway, it's all this whole symbiotic thing going on, but Dave would come to those rehearsals and that's where he saw me play for the first time.
And you guys became friendly after that?
Yeah. And then like, I really didn't even realize that he remembered who I was at all. But then I saw him, I was at a mountain jam like that year. I must've been 17 and I was there and then he like ran up to me and was like, Corrina. I was like, oh shit, Dave, how's it going? And that's what he actually said. He was like, I want you to play guitar in my power trio, Crescent Moon. It's been a duo up until now, but I think I want you to play guitar. And I was just like, yes, sign me up. I'll play any fucking time. So I did a bunch of gigs with Dave and Tomato on drums, and we played all Dave's music and became pals. And, I consider him and Monica, his longtime girlfriend, like some of my best pals. And, he basically, so what happened was, to set the record straight, Ween disbands. Very sadly, because that's another one of my favorite bands. And during that time, Dave starts touring aggressively with Marco. And then 4 years later, J-Rad starts. So that's a whole other thing. Dave's in J-Rad. And Ween comes back. And Dave kind of said to me, hey, I can't really keep up doing all of these. Like, I want you to be the only one to take my spot in Marco's band and like sub in for me. And I said, yes, of course. Like, that's insane. I'm a huge, fan of Marco's music and just the guys in it, like as a person. And so, I said, totally, Dave, make it happen. And then, Dave said to Marco exactly what I just told you. And then Marco said, sure, absolutely. I love Karina. Let's give her a shot. And then I learned 40 Marco tunes in like 2 months. We only had one rehearsal. And then a month later, I played 3 headlining shows that like directly conflicted with Ween shows at Terminal 5. So that was the beginning. And then by the end of that summer, where like basically that whole summer we were switching off a little bit. It was like he would play some shows, I would play some shows, like whatever he couldn't do, I would do. And then by the end of that summer, which is summer 2016, he was like, the gig's yours now. Everybody loves you. You've earned it. And
he's like a big brother.
He's the best big brother and guru and call it what you will, but he's done more for me than just about anybody. So, you know, that's deep right there. I love that guy so much.
And I've seen you in Marco's band, and it's not really a traditional bass job because you're the only stringed instrument on stage.
True. Very true.
So yeah. It's like a trio, right? It's you, Marco, and drums.
Yeah.
So there's a lot for you to fill. So do you find that you play the bass with a little of your guitar knowledge in it as well?
A little bit. And, you know, there are a lot of fuzz bass, like lead lines, basically. So like that is totally guitar influenced in some way or another. And I definitely like shred, quote unquote, sometimes, you know, in a very guitar-esque way. If you were to look at it that way. At this point, I'm just like, oh, that's just how I play bass. But you're totally right. That totally comes from guitar.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a different instrument. It's a different mentality, guitar to bass, right?
Totally.
So, at least an attacking approach. But there's a lot of space to fill. And that's a lot of trust for Marco to have for you. And that you really had to step up into that role of being almost a lead player, because bass is usually, I don't want to say support because it's really important, but it's not an instrument that people really notice a lot because it's mixed in with the rhythm.
That's definitely true. Definitely true. And, you know, it's a weird role in that band where like, you know, everything I do is to emphasize Marco, but then at the same time, there are those moments that he just writes into, and like we have big jams and it goes in crazy directions and it's just like Corrina, and like, then boom, spotlight's on me and I got to show up or show out. You know what I mean? I like.
So who do all three of you drive the jams? Is that what you find the most?
I would say it's mostly Marco and me trying to
keep up.
Yeah, exactly. It's Marco and then me doing whatever the fuck I'm doing over there trying to. Sink or swim, baby. Sink or swim.
Well, it works really, really well, and it's an amazing to watch you up there. You have such confidence, you know. You play with such authority, and you really lay it down, which is really, you know, it's great to see. Talk a little bit about your band. Do you have the Karina Rykman band? Is that what it is, or trio?
Just Karina Rykman. Yeah.
Oh, I like it.
Thank you. It was the Corrina Reischman experiment for a short period of time there, because quite literally, it's my 2 dear friends, Adam November and Chris Corsico, who you played with. Mm-hmm. And in the beginning, it was an experiment. There were literally no written parts at all. We would get on stage and like improvise fully, like no launch points, no like, oh yeah, like, you know, this like, you know, we'll do A minor funk and then, you know, go into like, you know, B flat minor reggae. No, there was nothing. So I was like, oh, it's a Karina Rykman experiment because we're literally experimenting there. But anyway, that went on for, I would say, a year. And then I started doing something insane, which is writing music. And then once we started writing music and like started putting out songs and, you know, trying to get that all, you know, together, I was like, well, it's not an experiment in that same way anymore. So chopped off the name. It's just my name. And it's fucking awesome. And, you know, we had such plans for this whole time. But of course, like everybody else, it's all gotten sidelined because of pandemic world.
Well, where were you in beginning of March when all this came down? Were you touring or anything?
Well, yeah, I had played like so many shows with Marco leading up to it and was doing like literally flying in, flying out every weekend and playing. Like we played a weekend in Colorado. We did a weekend Boise. We did a weekend in, you know, the last shows I played were with Marco, and it was in Miami, Hollywood, Florida, and then a festival in Tampa. And that was the Sunday before this all broke out. And then we moved upstate indefinitely. But It literally the week after that, like we came up here on March 13th, and the week after I had a recording session with my band, a whole other crazy thing that I don't even want to talk about because it's too surreal. And I just hope we can come back. It will come back. Everybody's like, it's not postponed. It's not canceled. It's postponed. Anyway, a lot of that stuff. And I was going to go on my own headlining tour with my band. I was going to headline the Brooklyn Bowl and Higher Ground in Vermont, the small room.
And that was all in the spring, right? That was all for this spring?
Yeah, totally. And Milk Boy in Philly and in Albany. And we're going to play Peach Fest this year. And we were going to play Tumble Down, the Twiddle Fest, and all these other things that were so cool. And of course, you're just like, well, okay. Nope, I guess not. It's all good. But I look forward to writing more and playing more and releasing more music. I do have a recording session on the books, which I'm stoked about, on the 7th of July with my band. So that will be huge because New York is, knock on wood, but New York's in a good way with all this right now. And
it seems it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And not to get to, we don't have to talk about it because it's all anybody can talk about. But, it's slowly but surely really like if I'm obsessed by the numbers, and the numbers are very excellent here right now.
Pretty unbelievable that they're getting ready to open fall. Do you have a plan on heading back to the city yet?
That's a great question. We're kind of, taking it step by step. And like, I want it to be like, if I go back, like, can I rehearse with my band? Like, can I go and, record? Like, what's open, what's not? I think basically the plan is to go and do like the week after July 4th weekend, I'm going to spend in the city rehearsing with my band, recording with my band, like doing all that stuff, and then probably come back up here, go there.
Yeah, you're in paradise kind of where you are now, and there's nothing really going on that pressing. I mean, you don't have to tour. Everything you do is because you want to do it.
Totally. So, I'm very blessed to have, such amazing people that are like, come and go basically, you can dip in, come back, it's nice to be in nature and like, kind of, it's all great. It's all like,
well, and like you said earlier, you're finding a new side of yourself that you lost in the city that you discover. And I think in all of us, we're all finding a side of ourselves we didn't know before. So yeah. It's been a very revealing 3 months. So
I would say so, definitely. And like, the idea of going on a hike before all this, I would have been like, hike? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Now I'm like, let's go. We're going on a hike. This one's 7 miles long. Let's go. Platform mountain. I got the All Trails app. I'm like, yo. This one, the elevation gain is crazy. I'm loving hiking. What the fuck? It's so not Karina, but it's now become a part of Corrina. And I love, I've started running. There's a pool. We like to swim. I swim. Like, it's just, it's a really blessed situation, and it's a great place to be in the summer. And I can't believe, I'm still, of course, a guest in their house.
Right. But you feel at home. And the interesting thing is that you really have only been at it for the past 3 or 4 years where you've had this schedule of touring and stuff. There's other people that have been doing it for decades where they are starting to find things about themselves that they've repressed for years that they've discovered from being around the house this much. Because a lot of people have not spent, especially a lot of musicians we know, have not spent 100 days anywhere.
No.
So it's a time for revelation, and it's a time for self-discovery. So it's interesting to hear how you're digging into it. The fans are chomping at the bit on my comments because everybody wants to hear about, the story.
That story?
Yeah, that story.
Oh yeah, okay. Let me take a walk.
This past New Year's. It was this past New Year's, right?
It was 2
years ago.
2 years ago. The very end of 2018.
Right.
Yeah. Totally.
You were talking about Phish. Karina was lucky enough to go to rehearsal, and Mike was touring you around his rig. You tell the story. I know it, but you tell it.
Yeah, this was the day after my 100th Phish show, and I believe the date is 12/30/2018. And Mike, for months leading up to this, has been like, I'm revamping my whole rig. I want you to come check out my rig. Like, I've done crazy stuff. All these pedals, all these effects, come check it out. And I'm like, yeah, anytime you want. I will come check it out. That's fucking amazing. Thank you. And it just turned out that, the morning after, when I woke up, like after playing a late night show till 4 a.m., my alarm is set for 4 p.m. And thankfully I wake up and it's like 2 something. And I see a text from Mike being like, can you be at the Garden in 30 minutes? Just check out the rig. And I'm like, yes. And I say yes. And then I'm like, oh, Jesus. And of course, when Phish comes to town, like all of our friends are Phish people, and our apartment turns into like Guantanamo Bay for Phish fans. And there's people on couches and nobody's awake yet. And they've all been at my show after the Phish show. So I'm like tiptoeing through the house after showering, and I'm like, fuck, my hair's gonna be wet for this. Like, that's insane. And I go and I pour myself a shot of espresso and I put my coat on, and we live very close to the Garden. So, and I see like one of my friends being like, where are you going? And I'm like, I'll tell you later. I like didn't want to jinx it or whatever. So get over to the Garden, and Mike and his wife Sue, we hung out. We had yet another espresso, and he's like, all right, you want to go check this out? And I'm like, yeah, definitely. So me and Mike and his tech kind of just, we're checking out all of the pedals and whatnot. And, he put the modulus on me, and I was clicking around, and he was like, and this does this. And if you do this with this, check this out, and blah, blah, blah. And it was, shoot, like, this is like my nerd wet dream happening. I'm like, this is really surreal. And I'm on stage at the world's most famous arena, and like, it's all too much. Like, my life is flashing before my eyes. I'm like, this is so fucking crazy. And then up walks Trey, and he's like, Karina? And I'm like, Trey. And he's like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, Mike, had me come check out his pedal board. And Mike's immediately like, I've been meaning to show her my board for quite some time, or like my rig. He's like, oh, that's awesome. And then Trey goes like over to like, Mike has effects on his side kind of also. Mm-hmm. He goes over and he's like, you see this pedal right here? Bella's boyfriend, Zach, was just his daughter's boyfriend. I'm like, yeah, of course. He's like, I gave this to him for his birthday. Check this out. And then he hits it with his hand, and I still have the bass on me, keep in mind. So he hits the pedal, and then it gives like this really awesome, like sweet tone. And I'm like, oh yeah. And then he like lights up in that Trey way. And he's like, runs to his side of the stage, picks up his guitar. And then like on note 1, Fishman just like comes in, and he's throwing down a rock groove. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so insane. And we're just jamming, and I'm pinching myself, and I'm like, this is the craziest shit that's like, nobody will believe this. This doesn't even happen. Like, what the fuck? And then Mike is filming it. Thank God. Because that's one of those things where I'm like, I would have literally thought I was dreaming had there been no video footage of that. Anyway, I'm going for it. And then the next thing you know, Paige is there. And I'm like, holy shit, Paige.
You're in Phish.
And then it's just everybody and me. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so fucking nuts. And it goes on for like 4.5 minutes. I don't even know. But I'm like, this is literally insane. And then we stop. And then I give the bass back to Mike. And I say, thanks so much. And then I run over to Trey, give Trey a hug. I'm like, dude, thank you so much. He goes, I have been meaning to do that with you forever. And I'm just like, yeah, me too. Definitely. Thank you so much. I'll see you later at the show. Goodbye. And then literally, like, I'm walking into walls. I'm like fucking discombobulated. People are like, yo, what is, like, and then like all the techs that are backstage and like the video people are like, dude. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know. And then I'm like walking back down 7th Avenue to go home, and like walking into telephone poles. I shit you not. I like can't even fucking see. I'm like blind. And I'm like, Ma. She's like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, Ma, I just sound checked with Phish. She's like, what? And then she's like, hey, we're at Barney's right now. Hey, Pa. And then she like calls over my dad. She goes, Karina just sound checked with Phish. And my dad's like, holy fuck. And I hear her. And then I get home, and like, thankfully I have the video. Anyway, Mike sends me the video, and I literally I explained the Guantanamo Bay like situation in my apartment, right? Full of Phish people just waking up barely. And they're like, yo. And I'm like, guys. And then, you can AirPlay like from your phone to the TV. I'm like, guys, just like, look at this. Like, I can hardly speak. And I airplay it to our television. And like, I want to say 4 of our friends were there and everybody was just like, dude, what is this? What? Oh my God. And everybody
probably thought it was something from the night before. And they're like, what is this?
it was just like, it was one of those unexplainable things. And I just don't even know. And of course, like it happened. When it happened, I knew it was like special, like beyond special. Like that doesn't happen to just like, everybody. It's like
nobody actually. I can't even think of somebody that's happened to in all these years.
Right. And that's fucked up. Like that's so
well, it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful story. And it shows how lucky you are. And it shows that you have this little glow around you and this little, you're blessed. What can we say?
About it, dude. There was something about it, but I told the story a million times, like right thereafter to people who were like, dude, like what? Like, huh? And, blah, blah, blah. And then, but I didn't realize I would continue telling the story for the next 2 years. Like I tell it on Long May They Run.
Right. Oh, hey, that doesn't go away, Karina. That's going to follow you the rest of your life.
I guess you're right. Anyway, it was the craziest shit of all time.
And how many views do you know? You have any idea? I watched it again today. You know how many views? Yeah, you must have 100,000 views.
A shit ton, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite a few. But you know what? More on like Instagram and Facebook than on YouTube, I think. I don't know.
YouTube's really difficult. I don't know what it is, but everybody I think is more banging on the gram and banging on the Facebook. But what a great story. And just like, you're a lucky girl. I'm jealous.
I mean, it's still like, it feels like a weird dream, even telling you that happened, especially now, like pandemic wise.
Did you feel like you were in over your head at any time?
I mean, yeah, definitely.
At the whole time.
I mean, it's just like too much. Like you can't even process shit like that. You know what I mean? But I'm big into like, you really try not to overthink shit. I feel like overthinking is the fucking kryptonite that kills people so many times.
Absolutely. Especially when you're playing music, you got to let yourself go, right?
Hugely. And, everybody has imposter syndrome and everybody thinks like, how could it possibly be, me doing all of this? Like, I don't deserve this. And this is too, like, I really try and push those voices to the side and just be like in the moment, do things, put things out. Think about them. Obviously, you want to have a fucking good product and you want to be good at what you do. And, I'm not like haphazardly doing shit. But
no, but when you're in the midst of creating and doing, you're not thinking about the process. You're immersed in creating.
And I think that brings a sort of liveness and authenticity to it in a way that like, if you're overthinking it, it's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? And I really try to bring that to every musical situation and every like life situation in a lot of ways, in the sense of just like not getting caught up in bullshit. Oh, like what'll people think about this? What about this? Oh God, if you do that, then what about this? And like, you don't deserve this. Like, why you? You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know why me. I have no fucking idea. But like, you just try to treat every situation with like grace and respect for the moment and fucking plunge right in, and that's exactly what I felt when I was up there with those guys. I'm like, they have something so special that like, even like, with all these streams and whatnot, like watching them in 95.
Oh yeah. That's a trip, huh?
It's such a trip. And for me, especially like you say, I've only been doing this like really, really for 4 years. Like I graduated college 4 years ago. You know what I mean? So this is like so insane to me that like, those guys, you watch them playing like David Bowie or like whatever. And you're just like, holy shit, you've been doing this since 95 or before,
85, really 84, 85. Right.
Exactly. And like, that's just such a mind fuck, wouldn't you think? Like, just for me, like I'm 26 years old. Like I've never been doing anything that long, let alone like creating this kind of chemistry and beauty with, 3 other people aside from you, meaning, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's so insane. And then like to step in there and be like, holy shit, like this is those guys that you've seen 100 times, like,
you're sitting there dancing and drooling while they're playing.
Yeah, I'm just like, I love these guys. These guys are fucking awesome, man. Aren't they awesome? I'm like, yeah, these guys are great. Great.
So what did you take back? What did you learn about Mike's rig that you took back to your rig? Anything?
I mean, that's a great question, Jeff. If I had all the money in the world and people who could build this all out for me in a very like, you know, he definitely like his tech, who's also named Mike, I believe, right? He is a genius, obviously, and like has labeled things. It's really an amazing feat of technology to see his rig. And I wouldn't say I've taken. I mean, I have like my things going on or whatever. Like,
right, but I mean, was there something that you saw Mike had and you were like, oh wait, I got to get that immediately? Like,
I can't afford any of that stuff. It's so out of reach.
Hey, well, you know what? You should put a wish list on your Instagram and like do a little. I'm sure people would be happy to send one of your fans be happy to send you a pedal.
Thank you. He does have. There was this. I have this pedal called the H9 by Eventide, which is it's like this white Stompbox thing that has like 100 different presets. And you can like go in and edit like every preset if you wanted to or whatever. He has something called, I believe it's called like the H9000 or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, gearheads, but it's like it's a big one, like a rack situation that he controls and like has an expression pedal to go with it. And it like the thing I took away the most was that he has so much going on and like uses like almost this much, even though like he totally uses effects, like don't get me wrong, but like things that he could do.
You're saying his palette is much wider than what he uses, but I guess each song has to have its certain sounds or certain things, right?
Absolutely, and I'm not being like, oh, he barely touches that shit. Of course not.
No, you pull it out when you need it, but you got to have it. It's like a Swiss Army knife, right?
It is, and that's fucking awesome. And again, like if I had the means and the setup and the techs and the people to rig that up for me, I have a pretty cool board, by the way. My board's pretty cool.
Yeah, your bass sounds incredible. So it's not really affecting your tone. I mean, you could do it. Hey, listen, I watched Dwayne or Derek Trucks last night on the Lock-In feed that they had this weekend, which was phenomenal. I don't know if you saw that. Were you on that at all?
I was not. I was not.
But it was great feed. Shapiro did a great job. And he plays right straight into the amp. He doesn't even have a pedal.
So. I mean, there's so much to be said about like, and I love fucking gear and I love effects. Don't get me wrong, like I really do. But at the same time, I have like a real like you gotta fucking use what you have mentality in a lot of ways and like work with what you got. Like I'm a little
you use what mama gave you.
You know what I mean? And I'm a little and so like I've accrued what I've accrued over time, obviously, like doing this for so long and like, I'll need a certain sound for a certain thing, but I'm not, I don't know. There's something about just kind of like being raw about it. I love plugging right into like an amp sometimes, even though I like fuzz bass is kind of my thing. I love going direct. It's fucking liberating and bass is so good for that, which guitar is more difficult, like going direct and like pedal.
Oh yeah, you got to be really good.
Yeah,
you got to play like Derek Trucks to be able to pull that off.
That's insane to me. Like that's so amazing. And he's like, he's probably got some reverb turned on, but like that's about it. That's fucking amazing.
It's pretty incredible. So you have to get onto your music. You released 2 original songs I saw on Spotify, Elevator and Plants. Is that right?
Right, you nailed it. You nailed
it.
Good.
Well, they were both in one word, so I was kind of, I kind of just didn't have to remember that much. What's out? So you're writing original music now?
Yes, like it out. Yeah, definitely. And this whole like the trip that I will take into the city after the 4th of July, I will be recording 2 more singles. TBD on if I will release them. Like you could release it like as a single with a B-side at one, or if I'll stagger it. TBD, but like really that's where my head's at right now. And just like writing, refining, making more shit, putting more out, It's I had this recording session planned in March, but it kind of everything got paused. So now it's kind of like the unpause, but I've been lucky to be in this place with amazing friends to write with and a lot of time and space it's kind of cool. Like as a tried and true New Yorker, like it pains me to say, but like there's something to being able to play loud, bombastic music at all hours of the night. Like I know you're not gonna have neighbors to care or like anybody to say you can't do that or call the cops on you or call the doorman.
Yeah, well, it's definitely good to get your yayas out for sure.
It's a good thing, So all of that said, yeah, I mean, shit, I'm just like all my friends here are musically inclined. So everybody's working on something, writing something, everybody's in a band just about. And like, we're all kind of vibing with each other and it's been an amazing, unique moment in time.
And you never know where we're going. So it's good to just focus where you're at and work on what you can while you can, because who knows what's around the corner anymore. This whole world's a big question mark. So it's been absolutely crazy. What do you got coming up? Anything? I know do you have shows? You doing any online things?
It's a great question. That's not so much. I feel like I'm just gotta, I want to make like I was saying, I want this drone series to really I want to make
off. Well, you got to get Johnny Beach really working on the intricacies of the drone.
He is. Now he's practicing. He's definitely, we threw him to the wolves and now he's in a great way with it. And he's practicing every night, getting all these, shots of the trees and the river and all that. Or whatever. But no, I don't have any specific thing to promote. That's fucked up. That's so crazy.
Well, what's Marco doing? Has he been trying to put you guys together to do any of these?
Oh yeah, holy shit, I do have something to fucking promote.
Oh, here we go.
There's something called there was Quarantine Comes Alive. Live for Live Music brings you Quarantine Comes Alive, and now they bring you Justice Comes Alive, which is awesome. And yeah, totally. Yo, my short-term memory is turned really
I'm with you right there.
It's tough. So I will be performing with Marco in one of these everybody films their part and then you edit it together. We're not play together things, and we're doing 3 tunes, and I think people will like them. It's super super fun, and that I believe that happens this Sunday. Am I correct?
I think so. We're gonna have Nikki and Nick from Nth Power on the show. Nikki's involved with it, and Ari Fink is hosting it, and Live for Live Music is producing it. Another one of their fine events. So, well, that's good. Well, there you go. You did have something to promote.
There's that. Totally. I'm telling you, my brain is so atrophied at this point in a nice way, but it's tough to keep
there's nothing wrong with that because you've been using it so much your entire life. It's okay.
It feels that way.
Not that you've had as much, my brain really is enjoying the rest.
I bet it is.
It's like, wow, we don't have anywhere to go. I don't have to remember to get to a plane. I mean, it's just really weird not booking any travel. I'm always booking travel, and it's weird. And I kind of want to book travel, but I'm also afraid to book travel.
I totally get that. I'm in the same. This is the longest I've ever been in one place since God knows when. I feel that big time. It's the longest I've ever not lived in Manhattan in my entire life.
Wow, so, that's crazy. That is crazy.
Literally.
That's nuts. But you know what? Like I said, it's an eye-opening experience and a mind-expanding experience. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things that happen to you that you're going to bring back to the day job when you finally get back on the job.
I mean, I sure think so. It's a good, you gotta with the it's a definition. When life gives you lemons, you gotta figure what the fuck, you're just
gotta make some lemonade, girl. That's what we're doing here. Lemons and lemonade. I mean, that's our whole life is polishing turds.
That's exactly the vibe, and it feels so good to polish this one.
I can get them so shiny.
You gotta scrub, dude. You gotta scrub. You gotta really get in there. It's a good thing, I don't know. It's unique. I've never not lived in an apartment. You know what I mean? Even though I tour, however.
Right. Hotel rooms and apartments aren't that different, right?
Exactly. This is my first time living in a house ever, and not walking out of my apartment and being here's 6th Avenue. Great. Look
and also having a big kitchen where 6 people can be in it at the same time.
Totally.
Or 10 people. As opposed to little New York kitchens where it's just get out of my way. I got to get this done.
There's a lot to like about it, which is I feel like it's humanizing me in a lot of ways. Because I was just this New Yorker who's fuck all that. I hate that. I hate the suburbs. I hate all this shit. Now I'm oh, I get it. That's cool. It's a cool way to, it's cool.
I love it.
It's good. Definitely good. And my parents have been on the Upper West Side of Manhattan this entire time, crushing it. And guess what? They're coming up this week. We're going to go down and pick them up and bring them here. And we're feeling good about it. And I'm very excited to give them a little bit of the rural vibe for a little bit. Cause I
love it. You're broadening their horizons now.
It's going to be cool. Totally. I can't wait.
Well, Karina, it's great talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on today. You're a delight. I can't wait to see you in person, to give you a big hug.
It's going to be huge. Broken ribs. We're gonna
I feel it. I can feel it. Give my love to Johnny Beach and the Sloans and everybody up there. They're all my people. I really miss you guys, and I can't wait till we're all together boogieing soon.
Dude, so mutual. Thank you so much for having me. This is such a pleasure, and fucking 420 live, dude. This is
I love it.
Oh my God. Great chat. And send California some of my love. I really, I gotta
we're feeling it. Thanks, Karina.
Love
Have
it.
a great day.
Take care.
All right. There you go. The beautiful Karina Rykman. I mean, come on, start the week off with a face and a smile and great stories. I mean, that kept me very entertained. That hour went like that. So check out her music, follow her on Instagram, and participate. Check out that video that she did for Quarantine Comes Alive. That was really cool. Let's see. What do we have here? I just wanted to tell you that we're working with our friends at Asher's Chocolates. 20% off. 420 Live is your code there. They're still working on the candy bar. We are going to get it out. I'm going to send Karina and the crew up there a solo pipe from our friends at Solo Pipe Venice, the one-handed master pipe. Tomorrow we're going to be talking to Jim Pollock, talking poster art, Phish poster art. Phish's original artist. He's been with Phish since the very beginning, and one of the more popular artists that does the Phish poster art for all their show. Wednesday, Tommy Chong, the one and only. Thursday, Nth Power, Nick and Nikki from the Nth Power coming on to talk about the Justice Comes Alive show that Karina mentioned. And then on Friday, we're going to go visit Stuart Copeland up at his studio up at Shady Grove. So we're excited for a big week. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in this weekend too and checking out my kids. The comments were hilarious. Thank you to Karina and everybody up there in Hudson Valley. Peace, love, happiness to everybody out there. The hug. Oh, we will see you tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. 420 Live. Say it twice.